The Portland Tribune reported a few years back that Joe Weston was just a kid in the 1950s when he used $2,500 from a paper route to buy a duplex in Northeast Portland. He still owns that duplex, but he's added a few more acquisitions over the last 50 years. Today, Joe Weston owns some $300 million in office buildings and apartments from Raleigh Hills to Lloyd Center. Please join me in welcoming Joe Weston.
Good morning, and thank you for that kind introduction. I apologize for my cold, but I flew in last night, Alaska Airlines, and while they give you nothing to eat on the plane, they did pass out coals, which I was a recipient of. Let me give you kind of a quick overview of my company and then what I feel is happening in the apartment industry and what I forecast in the next few years. I started the company in the late 1950s with a duplex off of Gleason at 73rd. As he indicated, I still own it, and it is finally free and clear. We were very active in construction in the 60s and 70s in the inner east side area. I had a rule that I would build within 3-mile radius of my office at 22nd and Broadway, because at noon I had to go out and check 5 or 6 jobs under construction. And if I had a crisis, I had all these pop quizzes that I could give my students and disappear for 10 minutes, and I felt I could do that within a 3-mile radius. When interest rates got up to the 20s, we stopped building apartments, and actually we never went into building apartments after that, other than the apartments that I built under Hoyt Street Properties in the Pearl District. The growth of our company in the last 30 years has been in commercial, industrial, shopping center, and retail. But we still held on to our core apartments, and over the years now we're starting to give them away to the foundation, and in turn they're selling them to the general public. I want to make a distinction between apartments and plexes, because we're really not going to address plexes. Plex is anything less than a 10-plex as far as I'm concerned, and there's no economic justification of owning it because of the price you have to pay per unit. It's just the pride of ownership. You cannot justify a rate of return to warrant the prices that Plex sell for. But when you start talking about apartments, now we're talking about net income and we're talking about capitalization rates. And of course, the higher the net income and the lower the cap rate, it indicates a greater value. And we sure seen that in the last 3 or 4 years when apartments were selling at outlandish cap rates so low it didn't even make sense. And a lot of these were being sold, of course, to be converted to condominiums. That's the only way they could make economic sense. We find in the current market there is a restriction as to the vacancy. It's getting higher, has over the last 15 months. In the Portland area, it's hovering right close to 9 to 10%. Now, this is caused because of the horrendous number of condos that are being now rented out as apartments, as well as the number of homes that have been foreclosed upon. And the lender has taken the position it's better to rent the house and have somebody in the house than let it go to rack and ruin as a vacant property during the foreclosure process and until they can get title. I find that the vacancy rate will remain abnormally high in the near future, and I think that's true for the next 18 months. For those that have apartments in the close-in east side or west side, close-in city center near the central business district, I think you'll experience lower vacancy rates than those out in suburbia. This is even true in the residential house market. If you get in your car and you drive around Alameda, Laurelhurst, Dolph Park, Irvington, you'll see very, very few for sale signs. And you'll find that those houses are being sold at a premium. People are offering more than the listed price just to get in that area, because there is such a trend for people to move back into the inner city area. But when you get out beyond 120th or so, any direction, west side as well, you'll see the for sale signs on the houses with the word price reduced or other wording to indicate that it's been on the market for some time. The real problem that is happening in the apartment market are those people that have larger units wherein they borrowed money during the heydays of 2003, 2004, 2005. Banks were out there trying to get the money out, and people were borrowing the money. The bank would tell you that they would give you a 25-year loan or a 30-year loan, but that really was not the case, due to the fact they had a right to look at that loan and remargin it in 3, 5, or 7 years. Banks locally did not get into a lot of securitization on apartment loans until 2005. And that's when they found that they could go ahead and make the loans, pick up the origination fee, pick up the service fee, and simply bundle the loan as a security in a package. And as we all know, securitized loans were not being sold as real estate loans. They were being sold as investment packages, as they were rated as a bond. And the purchaser of that particular package, be it a foreign country or be it whoever it might be, really had no idea what was in that particular package, securitized loan package. If it was apartments, industrial, retail, vacant land, whatever it might be. Now what happens is that when in 2005 the banks got very active in that, it was the most active year they were involved in securitization. And you add 5 and put 7, you come to 2012. Well, if I have a loan that's coming up for remargining, look-see, in 2012, and I go in and I see the banker, and if I'm fortunate that he portfolioed that loan is in his portfolio, and I can look him right in the eye, we can work out something, because the bank doesn't want the property back. And the federal government has already come out and said, look, if that loan is current, don't give the guy a lot of hassle because of loan-to-value ratio. You don't want the property back, too. If he can keep the loan current, ride with it. But if I go into the bank and I talk to the banker and he said, hell, I don't know who owns the loan. We service it. We made a fee. We originated, but it was securitized. It's part of a package. I have no idea who owns the loan. There isn't much I can do for you at all. Oh, I can give you a free pen and maybe validate your parking. But that's about all I can do for you. Well, that particular apartment owner has really got a problem. He's going to have to do something. So that when people ask me, when do you think we're going to come out of this little recession or major recession, however you want to refer to it as, I says, we have a few more years. It'll be 2012, probably around the third quarter or so. During the heyday, which again, 2003, 2004, 2005, people were buying older garden court apartments built in the 70s, 80s, and converting them to condominiums. They got down to where they were converting even 20 units. And people that bought it were young people. For the most part, they were all liar loans. Every one of them that was sold on a liar loan basis. So now what has happened? These people have either lost their job or something has happened. And I can show you buildings where it was 20 units, condominiums sold out within 3 weeks, sitting half empty. Now what's happened there is there's not enough income coming in on the homeowner's fee to pay the utilities, the common area utilities, to pay the landscaping, common area maintenance. Now this is going to be a major problem. But we'll work through it. We always work through every problem we might have. What we really need, in my estimation, and Mr. Mitchell may say that I'm wrong, is that we need jobs, and we need good paying jobs. They report that we have an unemployment rate of somewhere around 10%. Don't you believe it? The unemployment is made up of 4 factors, and they're only reporting but one factor. And that one factor they're reporting are those people that are collecting benefits. But there are 3 others. What about the people that have just given up altogether? They're not looking for a job. They've gone through their benefits. That's the end of them. What about the underemployed? The guy or gal that was making maybe $80,000, $90,000 a year now has a job making $35,000 or $40,000 a year and has absolutely no spendable income at all. None. They're just barely getting by. And then what about the person that is not employed 40 hours a week? They're only working 20, 24 hours a week. So when you consider unemployment, you take into consideration all 4 of them. Those that are statistically collecting the benefits, those that have given up, those that are underemployed, and those that are not employed on a full-time basis. Once we get jobs going again, I think we'll be all right. We'll work our way out of this. It's going to take time. Will there be some good opportunities for the investors? Yes. When will those opportunities be there? 2011, 2012. My company, we're still making acquisitions. We're making acquisitions on property that we feel that we can renovate, and the increase in value would be bought through the renovation. But I am collecting quite a collection of empty buildings, and I'm somewhat should be a little concerned about that, but be that as it may. We are fortunate we haven't had to lay anybody off. We keep buying a building and start renovating it. Then we go to another building, so no one has been laid off. So that's a plus as far as the employees are concerned. The apartment market in Portland is kind of a unique market. Our rents are lower than Seattle and surely lower than San Francisco. We don't have the same demands as far as requirements to rent. Most apartments are rented on a 30-day basis. They don't require a lease. Maybe they'll require a 6 months or so, but they don't require a long-term commitment. And people are very mobile now. You'll find when I started out in the apartment business in the 50s, you didn't furnish carpeting. You didn't furnish appliances. You didn't furnish window coverings. So when a person moved into the apartment, they made a commitment. They had to get appliances, they had to get rugs, they had to get curtains, and they just wouldn't move on the drop of a hat. But nowadays, all they're out is $19.95 for a U-Haul truck and a friend and a beer, and let's move. We're going. We're going to move. And this has actually helped now since no one has hardwiring phone. We don't have to change our phone number even. We keep the same phone. We just move on. But be that as it may, I'll reserve the rest of my time for the questions and answers. Thank you for your attention.